Hitler is in, but Maya Angelou is out of the Naval Academy Library? Let's break that down. Hi, I'm Melba Pearson, also known as the Resident Legal Diva, and this is The Breakdown. If you enjoy the content on this channel, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and tell a friend. So we know that this administration released a flurry of executive orders, and part of that included a purge of all libraries or any places where books are basically living. There's a purge to basically get rid of anything that could be seen as woke and, all this ideology against equality, DEI, all of this, right? So they decided to start purging books, and a list was given to the Naval Academy, the Merchant Marine Academy, et cetera, and they started pulling books off the shelves. Now, in an administration that claims to care so deeply about the Jewish community and are holding all these universities to task because of anti-Semitism, and they're not doing enough to care for and protect their Jewish students, you'd think Hitler's Mein Kampf, which is basically the blueprint for anti-Semitism, would be the first book you take off the shelves. But no. 2 copies of Mein Kampf are hanging out on the shelves of the Naval Academy. But, an even more dangerous book, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou. Oh no, that had to be removed. So that's not the only book that fell victim to this. Again, continuing with the hypocrisy we're seeing in terms of caring so deeply for anti-Semitism, the book called Memorializing the Holocaust, which was written by Janet Jacobs. It was a book written in 2010, which examined how female victims and survivors of the Holocaust have been portrayed and remembered. Well, yeah, that book is gone too. Okay. But Mein Kampf is still on the shelves, and lest you'd think that would be alone, there's another book that is accompanying it called The Camp of Saints. So this is a book that was written back in 1973, which is a novel, work of fiction, that basically envisions a takeover of the Western world by immigrants from developing countries, and that basically was part of the fear-mongering that we saw from Stephen Miller in a lot of the anti-immigrant policies that were coming out of the administration. So again, a racist book that supports a racist mindset. Also, The Bell Curve is there, and that's another book that has been challenged, debunked 10 different ways from sunrise. It's a book that argues that Black people are genetically less intelligent than white people. So that book gets to still hang out on the shelves, unmolested and untouched. But what did get pulled was a critique of that book, again, talking about the science and talking about the fact that everything in that book has been debunked. Well, yep, that's gone too. So what is happening here? I mean, the mindset is just boggling to me. And again, this speaks to the heart of First Amendment, because people have the right to be able to read what they want to read. And they should not be indoctrinated in one side or the other. So if you're going to present, and this is me giving a pure First Amendment argument, but if you're going to present Mein Kampf as something that midshipmen people who are learning to work with each other and learning to understand global politics and how that impacts their work and all of that, you want them to read Mein Kampf, well, I should hope that you would have the counterpoint of the horrors that happened in the Holocaust as a result of that book and what we can do to make sure that never happens again. You would think that counterpoint would be there, right? So the fact that they're stripping away all of these books that aren't even that controversial, it's just a matter of who's writing them. These are books written by women, written by people of color, people who are different marginalized communities. Again, taking away those books doesn't kill the idea. Like, number one, folks still have the internet. So if they really want to research and learn more about this point of view that you're hiding them from, listen, by doing what you're doing, you're going to make more people gravitate and want to learn more about what it is you're telling them they can't see, right? Because just human nature, if you say, no, don't go down there, don't read that book, don't talk to that person, people are going to be like, but why? And they're going to want to dig in more. So again, if that's the theory, you're thinking that by not exposing people, you're suddenly going to snuff out all these voices. Yeah, that's not going to work. And also, it's just shameful because some of the books that were pulled also included military history. So history about the Tuskegee Airmen who made such amazing contributions to the field of aviation, to military strategy and all of that. You would think that you'd want the soldiers of today, the naval people of today, the army of today, to build on the positive examples from the past. So again, why would you take that away? And when you have books like The Second Coming of the KKK, I mean, it's just, it just boggles my mind at this point that we're basically retreating to a place that we saw, and I never like to say this lightly, but, you know, when you think about the rise of Nazi Germany and how books were being burned, books by Jewish authors were being burned, because again, they wanted to make sure that people weren't reading or learning a point of view that was contrary to theirs. This is the same type of concept. They may not be burning them in the streets, but by pulling them from view, by pulling them away from students who want to learn, what do you think that's really going to accomplish? That is erasure. And that is true indoctrination. So, again, I'm still boggled by all of this, but what is very comforting to me is to see leadership in the Navy, including very powerful people that had graduated from the Naval Academy, speaking out and saying how dangerous this is. We have, for instance, Admiral James Stavridis, who is an author. He graduated from the Naval Academy, and he is a former commander of all U.S. forces in Europe. He came out and said the Pentagon might have an argument if midshipmen were being forced to read these 400 books. But as I understand it, they were just among the hundreds of thousands of books in the Nimitz library which a student might opt to check out. What are we afraid of keeping from them in the library? And the saddest part about this is that the Nimitz Library is named after Fleet Admiral Chester W. Nimitz, who in 1942 personally gave the service's second highest valor award, the Navy Cross, to a Black enlisted sailor named Doris Miller because of his courageous actions under fire during the attack on Pearl Harbor. And Admiral Nimitz was actually quoted as talking about the historical significance of him giving this award. And he said, "This marks the first time in this conflict that such a high tribute has been made in the Pacific Fleet to a member of his race. And I'm sure that the future will see others similarly honored for brave acts." Petty Officer Miller later died in action after his ship was torpedoed in the Pacific. But to see what Admiral Nimitz did, and to see the library that's named after him breaking so clearly from the tradition what he was trying to do, that's a disgrace to his name, and I'm sure he's rolling in his grave to see this. So hopefully the pressure and the outcry will make at least the Naval Academy and others stand up and reverse their action and put these books back. But until then, again, this is just another example of the slow march to authoritarianism that is going to keep going if we don't stand up and fight back. I'm Melba Pearson, also known as the Resident Legal Diva, and this was The Breakdown. If you enjoy the content on this channel, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and tell your friends. Take care.
In collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories at the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.